To this. Okay. All right. We are so excited to be in conversation with the one and only Delroy Lindo, who is an Academy Award nominated actor for his role in the amazing Sinners film. And first of all, welcome, Delroy. How are you?
Thank you. I'm well, Sarah. Very, very good to be with you.
Yes, yes. So I know this is a very busy time. The Academy Awards are coming up this weekend, and you have been on a serious whirlwind media tour. I've seen you everywhere. How are you? How is it feeling to be in like the eye of the storm or the glare of the spotlight, given how long you've been in this incredible business?
It feels good from the standpoint from the standpoint of the attention the film is getting and the appreciation for my contribution to the film. It feels very, very good. Um, I'm hoping it doesn't backfire on me. My being everywhere, seemingly all the time, and people getting really tired, saying, "My God, this guy again." Every time I turn around, I see this guy. But yeah, it feels good. It feels good.
Is this your first Academy Award nomination? So you've been nominated for Best Supporting Actor, correct?
Correct. That is correct.
For your role as Delta Slim
That's
in
right.
Sinners.
Hmm.
So the performance that you gave is incredible, but you've given a lot of incredible performances over your lifetime. And
Thank you.
so I want you to talk about like what does it feel like to have created this really iconic role as Delta Slim and getting the kind of recognition that you are getting, but also understanding that, you did incredible work in X and Malcolm X and in Cider House Rules and in
Hmm.
To Five Bloods. Like, did anything feel different to you in performing and doing that part of Delta Slim versus these other roles, or do you feel like the the public is just, or the Academy is just recognizing the incredible performance that you did in this particular film?
I make a distinction between the public and the academy because I have one of the most amazing aspects of this journey is how broadly and deeply widespread the public has supported and been happy for me having gotten this nomination. And so the public has been supportive through various films, various work that I have done consistently for many, many, many years. So I make a distinction between the public and the academy. As far as the academy is concerned, what I'll say to you, Sarah, is that it does not it's not constructive. And I know this was not your question, but it's not constructive for me to make comparisons between work that I've done in the past and this current work. And I know that's not quite what you're asking me. As it relates to what you asked me, I am, because I don't make comparisons, and because it does not help me to quote unquote live in the past in that sense and say, well, I did X or Cider House Rules or Five Bloods, and those that work was not recognized by the Academy. Um, what I will say to you is that this feels particularly rewarding that this work is being recognized. Um, I'll be honest with you, it took me somewhat by surprise, honestly, the outpouring of the way the public responded to my work. I was stunned, frankly, but it's been a phenomenal ride. It continues to be a phenomenal ride, and I am profoundly appreciative. But to answer your question, I try not to live in the past. Let me accept what's happening for me now and relish that.
Solomon, why don't you jump in?
So, great to talk with you. And
Thank you.
I've been admiring your work for a long time, and I've learned that you started on the stage.
That's
And
correct.
I'm not an actor, but I know that it's a different type of acting on the stage. How does your
That is
stage work inform what you do on the screen?
the discipline that it takes to work in the theater and to do 8 performances a week, the work ethic that I have developed, that I developed in the theater, and partially what I mean by that has to do with the vocal and physical preparation that I engage in the theater. And I've carried those practices over to uh, film, my work in for the camera, television, and or film. Techniques that I use in order to retain dialogue, um, so that if ever on film I have a lengthy dialogue, I'm sorry, a lengthy monologue, excuse me, a lengthy monologue, um, as I do in Sinners, there are certain techniques that I developed in the theater that I can apply to my work for the camera, learning and retaining monologues. So they're just a few of the things that I've learned from working in the theater and have carried over into my work for the camera.
To ask you about the timing of, Sinners is definitely a worldwide phenomenon, just like Black Panther was.
Absolutely.
But I also think that the level of recognition that this particular film is getting at this particular time is really fascinating. I mean, I think there's like 13 or 14 Academy Award nominations for Sinners. It's a
16. 16.
16. Okay, I got
There are
the
16, and that is a record. No other film has ever received this many nominations. And that's important because it speaks to the phenomenon that you're referring to in terms of the impact of this film. 16 nominations.
and I think it's so fascinating that this really black cultural, historically rich film is getting this kind of attention and recognition, well deserved, at a time when there's so much erasure and attack and
Yep.
weaponization against black people and culture and history.
Yes.
And so, like, how are you processing um, that kind of contradiction in a way that
Seeming
seeming
contradiction.
contradiction, or do you think it's intentional that it's getting elevated because of
Okay. I love your
context?
question. I love your question because um, I believe that part of the success of Sinners has to do with the fact that this work, as multifaceted and as multi-layered as it is, and steeped very specifically in Black history, African American history, in actuality, in the final analysis, there is a humanity at the center of this work that is resonating for everybody. And that is part of the reason that it has exploded and become a global phenomenon. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Literally, I love your question, Sarah, because literally 2 days ago, I was at an airport and I get into an elevator and two white females and a white male are in the elevator with me, all of whom have seen Sinners. Two of the women had seen it. One of the women had seen it twice. The other woman had seen it 3 times, and they were all lauding the artistry, and that was the word that one of the women used, the artistry of this film. Now, these are white people. Now,
Mhm.
I didn't ask them, well, what specifically was it about the film that you responded to, because I didn't need to. It is enough for me that there's this depth of acknowledgement, in this depth of engagement from audiences, from white audiences, as well as black. And I believe that the reason for that is that the film is touching their humanity. And for me, that speaks to the strength, the resilience of our humanity, the humanity of black people, particularly in context, the historical context, our resilience historically, but specifically contemporaneously in context of the fact that so much of our history is there's an attempt to erase our history. I guess I'm saying unfortunately in quotes, unfortunately in quotes, for the people who, the individuals who would attempt to erase us, as we know, we're not going anywhere. And if anything, we are expanding our footprint, our presence. And that has to do with the historical and contemporaneous dynamism of who African descended people are, who we continue to be, and how we continue to connect to this world that we're living in and do what we do. And I think that Black Panther, when one speaks about cinema, Black Panther is an extraordinary example of that, as is Sinners.
Now you speak to the times that we're in, and in 1994 you went with several other actors to South Africa to
Yes.
encourage black people to vote in their first free and fair elections there.
Yes.
And when I learned that, I couldn't help but think about now, where you have a president and a party that's really trying to constrain people from voting, trying to take away people's voting rights. As someone who has stood up for that prior to that, how are you viewing what's happening now?
That's an entirely legitimate question. I'm going to talking about restriction. I'm going to restrict my answer. And the reason I'm restricting my answer is because um, a lot of what I do, much of what I do, is funneled through, I use the conduit of my work and the conduit of the advocacy that I do in my life to address what you just asked me, which is to say this. Let me just backtrack for 1 second,
Sure.
and I have to give kudos to my friend, my dear friend, Danny Glover. Danny has a history of speaking truth to power and putting his politics at the forefront of who he is as a human being. I'm not similar in that way, but I've learned a great deal, and I've always said I've learned a great deal from Danny. Danny is the reason that my wife Nashime, your cousin Sarah, and I went to South Africa, because Danny invited us. At the time, he was involved in an organization called Artists for a Free South Africa. And so because of my friendship with Danny is how I came to be on that trip. Your question, as compared to Danny, because I do not put my politics at the forefront of what I do in the same way, but what I do try and do, I try and do two things. One is to speak as a creative worker through my work to the world that I live in, and try to make an impact in that from that standpoint. And secondly, the advocacy that I engage in my quote unquote private life, which for me gives me a huge measure of satisfaction from the standpoint of feeling like I am using whatever, celebrity or quasi celebrity that I have to impact my fellow human beings. That's the way that I do what I do.
I watched an interview with you and Denzel Washington, and I'm listening
Hey,
to your answer, and it made me think about what Denzel said. He said that he came to realize that you had a filter to everything that you do, that there's a foundation of truth to everything that you do. And what I wonder is how that truth plays out in the roles that you play. Do you see a piece of yourself in the roles that you play, including the
Absolutely.
role that you played in Sinners?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'd like to believe there are various pieces of myself in the various characters that I have played. Let me take a half a step back and just officially acknowledge once again my friend Denzel for engaging that interview with me, because D does not do, those kinds of events. And in this instance, he did it as a favor to me. Excuse me, our friendship, the fact that we go back so many years, all the way to acting school, in San Francisco in the late 1970s. So I just want to acknowledge that once more, because that was huge what he did for me. It was huge just as a friend, and huge and very significant in the context of this campaign. But to your question, there are various pieces of me in the work that I do, and I guess, I mean, audiences will have to, confirm this. Um, the truth that you see in the work, in the characters that I portray, on some level comes about as a result of my trying as much as I can to invest as much of myself into the work, and then use acting techniques to bridge the gaps between who I am and who the character is that I'm playing. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So, so Delroy, so we're talking with Delroy Lindo, Academy Award nominated actor for his role playing Delta Slim in Sinners. And Delroy, you know that my son is an actor. And
I do.
so I'm asking this question on behalf of him because, like, and you have given him incredible advice, and he
And
repeats
can
it.
I just say something? I'm really proud. Let me just say this. I'm really proud. I've seen Langston on a couple of commercials, and I'm really proud every time I break into Nashman and I. Huge smile every time I see him, because that's indicative of he's making his way as an actor. But please
Yeah.
finish your
So,
question.
so, so, and then I want to tell you something you told him that has made a profound impact on him. But I'm curious, like your process, like how do you prepare? Because when I look at Delta Slim, and I know you, and you fully inhabit that
Thank you.
character. You know,
Thank you.
the teeth, the posture, everything. How did you prepare to inhabit that character? Was it, did you study like the accents? Like what's your process for inhabiting your characters?
First of all, thank you for that question. Also, thank you, Sarah, for that question. First of all, kudos to the genius of Ryan Coogler, okay? Because in the script, in the screenplay that he presented me, there was Delta. Now, of course, Delta still needed to be fleshed out and made manifest, but there was a structure narratively to who Ryan Coogler presented to me in that screenplay. Granted, it was on the page. So, as I've said numerous times, my process with regard to Delta Slim started with the two books that Ryan sent me. Blues People by Amiri Baraka, who was Leroy Jones when he wrote the book, and Deep Blues by Robert Palmer. I read those two books, which gave me insights into the lives and the lifestyles, plural, of various of the blues musicians who were highlighted in those two books. I then listened to a lot of music, Sarah and Solomon. I listened to a lot of music. Um, Howling Wolf, Muddy Waters, Sun House, the BB King, a, a lot of the great, practitioners, blues musicians from the Delta. I just inundated myself with that music constantly. I looked at documentaries um, that were not necessarily about musicians, but they were about people from the region, the Delta, Mississippi Delta. Um, Ike Turner, and I always mention Ike Turner. I know he's a controversial figure in terms of his relationship with Tina Turner, but what I learned about Ike Turner, a brilliant musician and a wonderful historian, just listening to his interviews on YouTube. He knew a lot about the music and could deconstruct the music, explain the music. So it wasn't just those 4 or 5 musicians. I listened to a lot of music and a lot of musicians, but it was a conglomerate of things that I exposed myself to in order to then start the process of bringing this man to life. And there's one thing that I mentioned. The cat named Sun Pi, a wonderful New Orleans musician. We shot in New Orleans, and there were various wonderful New Orleans-based musicians who helped me with as I was navigating the harp, the harmonica, and the piano. One of them was this gentleman, Sun Pi, and he told me a story about his pops, about his father, and he mentioned that his father was a walker, walked everywhere. And there was something about when he told me that just resonated for me. And I'm not sure I can explain it. I am a walker myself. I like to walk. But there was something about Sun Pi telling me that about his dad that translated to me, I don't know, from the standpoint of what Delta Slim's physical relationship is to the earth that we walk on. So there were these various aspects, various components that I was taking from the information that I was intaking, and I guess putting them into the pot of my own creativity to come up with Delta. And I also have to mention our tremendous musical directors on the film, Ludwig and Serena Goranson, who were incredibly helpful all the way throughout the process.
You talked earlier about the humanity of this movie and how
Yes,
people's humanity is touched by what they see on the screen. I find it ironic because this movie is about something inhuman. And so why would you think it takes something inhuman, or why does it take something inhuman to touch people's humanity in this way in this film?
because it's in that conflict between the evil forces and the positive forces. We have to increase the depth of our humanity to combat those evil forces. And it speaks to, in the final analysis, something I said a few minutes ago, which is the resilience of African descended people and our humanity, the resilience, who we are as a people, and our ingenuity to make our mark on this planet. So I think that what people perhaps are seeing is how we, the positions that we adopt in the face of this evil, and how we fight off that evil, ward off that evil, so that we can continue to exist and flourish. And in that sense, you know, the sacrifice that I make at the end of the film, so that Sammy can can continue to live and exist and flourish. On some level, that kind of encapsulates that. But we're all doing it. Stack is doing it. We're all doing it. Annie does it when she dies and she forces Mike B's character to put that stake through her heart. There are all of these examples of the sacrifices that we make in that film in order that our culture, in the form of Preacher Boy, Sammy, played by Miles Caton, can survive.
Um, so, like through this process, I of your nomination and the visibility, there have been like a few kind of snafus that have been very public. One was, some commentator said that you were like a newcomer, you were like an upstart, like you just like burst onto the scene, which we know that is not at all true. And then there was the BAFTA, Tourette's,
Thing.
outburst, and
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
I'm curious, like how, and those are just two that I've been privy to reading about. I'm curious, like how you are navigating this like celebrity that can sometimes backfire into like really like into into mannerisms that attack your humanity.
Can I say something about that? It backfires on them, not on me.
Hmm.
I'll tell you. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you what. Those two examples that you cite. Yeah, the young man in Denver referred to me as an emerging artist.
Right.
Hmm.
Now, and I learned from these incidences. What I learned from that incident, was that what I was told was that some of the journalists, and I'm saying journalists in quotes, very pronouncedly in quotes, I'm saying that. Some of the people who do these interviews on the red carpet, on some of the red carpets, are not actually journalists, they are influencers.
Hmm.
I can only surmise that that young man was not a journalist, clearly had not done his homework, bless his heart, and was using this verbiage, this language to try to get a point across, and he happened to just make a huge mistake. Um, with regard to BAFTA, um, pretty much, Sarah and Solomon, I've said as much as I want to say about that. The three things, um, I mentioned at the NAACP Awards how phenomenally affirming it has been to get the support, the love of fans of the community, of our community, but of fans all over, in response to that event, that incident. And it has become a brilliant example of a negative turning into a gargantuan positive. Um, so, and there are a couple of other comments that I've made. Um, I did mention that it would have been nice if somebody from BAFTA had come to Mike and I after and said something, and that did not happen.
Yeah.
But broadly speaking, Sarah and Solomon, I would say that the perpetrators of those incidents, whether they were willing or unwilling perpetrators, intentional or unintentional, ultimately they've had to deal with the outcomes of those incidences. And for myself, I don't want to speak for Mike, but in the moment, we had jobs to do. We had to read that teleprompter and present the award, and we did that. And the terms that I've heard, people talk about our grace, our professionalism in the moment when we were in the eye of that storm. And they're all positives. And so I take the positives
Hmm.
We
from.
appreciated your grace and your professionalism, but I think I can speak for the black delegation when I tell you we were mad. We were angry about it,
Sure,
and we felt
sure,
disrespected. And so I
sure.
think that what you've seen is kind of an outpouring of support from the Black community that you and Michael B. Jordan endured that moment.
And
But
that's that
when I
support means
I'm sorry, go ahead.
everything. No, that support has meant and continues to mean everything. But please continue.
So my question is, in that moment, in my view, all of the culture and all of the music and all of the artistry that you talked about was reduced to an ugly word
Mm-hmm.
in that moment. If you were to reduce or to increase that culture and that artistry and that work to a word, what would it be?
I'm not sure I can encapsulate it in one word. The first word that came to my mind was excellence.
Mm,
And the second word that came to my mind was ingenuity. We are an ingenious people.
Mm.
We are an ingenious people. And it never ceases to amaze me if we think about not only the fact that we as an African descended people are still here, but think about how we are here. Think about the impact, our impacts on world culture. It's everywhere. And so I comfort myself inside of that reality. Excellence, ingenuity. So there are two words. You asked me for one. I'm giving you two.
Okay.
We're an extraordinary people.
yeah. Yeah, I think that we all agree on that. Now, I know that we probably need to wrap it up soon. You've given us a lot of your time, and I know
You
you're
said 20 minutes, Sarah.
I know.
Solomon, sister said 20
She
minutes.
That's a,
said 20. She
that's
I'm
a
doubled
just
it to
funny.
saying.
40.
I'm just saying. I'm just
That's
saying.
that's
Go
the other
ahead.
thing we do as a
And,
people.
and Delroy, you were tight. You were tight when we came on. I was like, oh, this might be 10 minutes. We're loosening you up. But I wanted to go back to something you said to my son Langston, who was an actor, and it really I feel like it produced a shift in him, and
Oh, wow.
um, yeah, because you told him that, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that your goal was to be a working actor
Yep.
as opposed to a movie star.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
you told him that, and I think that really shifted something in him
I love
to
that.
that he is like, I want to be a working actor. I
I
don't want to
love
be a
that.
movie star. So I want you to just like speak to how do you see the difference between a working actor and a movie star?
I'm going to address the working actor piece because I don't want to cast aspersions on movie stars and what that is. What I can say about being a working actor is that the concentration is on craft. I'm going to speak about myself, okay, as a working actor. Excuse me. I try to concentrate, I do concentrate on craft, preparation. In that craft, there involves preparation, being ready to work and going about manifesting the work in very particular and specific ways having to do with how one manifests the craft of acting. And in so doing, hopefully, knock on wood, hopefully, no, there are no guarantees here, but hopefully one increases one's chances of having some longevity because the focus is always on the work of an actor and applying craft to whatever one is doing. And I'd like to say that I'm kind of sort of an example of that, that I've been able to have to sustain a career on some level, albeit that there have been ups and downs. No question, there have been ups and downs. But I think that concentrating on the craft of acting, being as conversant as one can be with the craft, what the demands of the craft are, and what the demands of the work are, and navigating one's work accordingly. I'd like to believe increase one's chances of having some longevity in a career.
Yeah.
Because as we know, and this is something that I've talked about with friends of mine, in the last few years, actually, it is one thing to attain a level of success. It is another thing entirely to sustain a career
And that's across everything. That's
across every.
everything
That's
you just said
yes,
is applicable to anything anyone is doing. It's not just
absolutely,
about acting. So thank you for that.
absolutely.
Solomon, do you have another question? And we will wrap this up after.
Well, my son wants to be a filmmaker. So
Mm,
Sarah
mm.
Solomon probably needs to get with Langston, and they probably need
Right.
to.
I
But
like that.
you know what I notice is that the roles that you've played that stand out most for me are roles that were done by black filmmakers. West Indian Archie in Malcolm X, Delta Slim in Sinners, and these black filmmakers. What is it about black filmmakers that helps to bring out some of the best work in you?
Now, with all due respect, Solomon, that's your opinion, okay? No, that's not a criticism.
No, I hear you.
You're entitled to it. What I would say to you, no, truly, what I would say to you is these are filmmakers. These are filmmakers first who happen to be black.
Hmm.
Now, with the two instances that you mentioned, Spike, Malcolm X, and I always say that I'm batting 1,000 with Spike. Every single time, every film that I have done with him has been, a gift to me creatively that I can then engage and and come up with work that we're all proud of. And Sinners. So you talk about Spike Lee and Ryan Coogler. I would say to you, and these are filmmakers who happen to be black. Now, I would say to you that as a result of the fact that they are black, the narratives, the content of the narratives are such that I understand them. Meaning, and the metaphor that I always use is like being on a train. I know the direction that the train is going in. And we're on the train together and we're going in the same direction. I know where the train is going. It doesn't mean that the work is not challenging. It is. But in the final analysis, I know where that train is going. It's not making some unexpected stops. Whoa, I didn't know we were stopping here. Well, what does this mean? We're going in the same direction. So to answer your question, I think that because there is an understanding, a cultural understanding, a historical understanding of the narrative that these filmmakers are attempting to share with audiences, I can plug in ways that, yes, the work is challenging, but I can plug into that work in ways that I'm conversant. We're speaking the same language. And also, you know what? Going back to what I said 10 minutes ago, I trust implicitly that in the final analysis, what we're excavating has something to do with our humanity. And the negating of our humanity, if you think about that, is the cause of all the daggone problems.
Yeah, it is.
That one thing, the negating of our humanity, the insistence, quote unquote, that we're not human, that we're less than. Not only that we're less than, that we're not human. What is it, 3/5 of a man? Yeah, whatever, And so I trust the two filmmakers that you mentioned, that we're excavating legitimately aspects of our humanity. And I would say to you, that applies even when I'm playing a cat like Rodney in Clockers. Whether I'm playing quote unquote a bad guy, quote unquote, and I'm saying that in quotes because it is not my job as an actor to judge. When I'm playing somebody like Rodney, um, it's still an excavation of humanity. And what I would say with perhaps, so that I think I'll just leave it there.
So Delroy, what's next? Like, I mean, I know that you're like in the thick of it right now, but like,
Yeah.
if you win this Academy Award on Sunday, you've already won, the NAACP award, and I'm sure there are other ones on the horizon. How will that fuel what's next? And before that, happens, what is in your immediate future?
A couple of things are in my immediate future. I'm working on a book, which is a memoir of sorts that investigates. I was born in England, as you know, and it's I'm excavating and examining um, not only my time in England, but my mom. How I came to be born in England is happened as a result of the fact that my family is Jamaican. My mom was part of a huge influx of Caribbean people into the United Kingdom in the late 1940s. Um, and I am in my book excavating what that meant, how that impacted my life and my mom's life, and how it impacts who I have become and how I have become. So that's a memoir that is scheduled for publication in 2027. Working on it now with a wonderful editor whose name is Rosemary Robotham. So shout out to Rosemary. I'm also working on a film that I'm going to direct
Ooh,
that is likewise set in Jamaica, which is about community and spirituality and healing. And so I'm working on that and hope to film that this year. Knock on wood. I'm still raising money for that. And the third thing is that I did right after Sinners, I went to work on um, one of these um, King Kong versus Godzilla films, which will be released in March of 2027. So
mm,
they're the next three that I know of. And as you mentioned, we'll see what happens, knock on wood. Uh, we'll see what happens on Sunday, and we'll see how that impacts the trajectory of my life and my career.
yeah. Solomon, do you have anything else you want to ask Delroy or
No, no.
no?
Thank
Okay.
you for making the time to
Yeah.
speak with us. We
God
certainly
bless y'all. God
Yeah.
bless y'all.
Delroy, I just want to say one thing, and we'll probably cut this out of the interview. But I just want to tell you how much, and this is like just an example of the kind of human being you are. And this is like a little story, but when I was living out in Northern California, and I invited
Yeah.
you and Nasher May to this party that was
Yeah.
for me. It was allegedly for me to like welcome me to Northern California. And we get there and it's not a party for me at all. Like I invited you guys because I was like, oh yeah, they're having a party for me to introduce me. And when they were making remarks, there's all these people making remarks, make no mention of me. Here's Delroy, the star, like, tall, statuesque, this booming voice, who says, I'd like to say something. And Delroy like stands up in front of everyone and says, I just want everyone here to know, you need to know this woman, Sara Lomax. She's here from Phil. And you just like run down this beautiful introduction that allowed me to like stand a little taller in this moment
Mm,
when I felt really like ignored
mm,
and overlooked and stepped over because this
mm,
event was not at all about me. It was
mm.
about something else, even though originally it was supposed to be. So I just appreciated that because you are a star and people listen and respect you and hear you differently than other people. And so I know that you use your voice very strategically, even for little things like that. And I really appreciated that so much in that moment.
God bless, Sarah. God bless. I would say knowing you as I know you, and knowing what you're about and what you represent, what your family represents, that was the least I could do, and you more than deserve that. And I would say to
Thank you.
you, on some level, I mean, even though we are family, I wasn't doing you a favor, actually. What I was doing, I did not consider that I was doing you a favor. What I was doing was rebalancing, just rebalancing the equilibrium
Yeah.
and putting the focus where I felt it needed to be. Because I remember you did say, oh, we were having a party for me, and we got there, and it was this other thing.
It was this
So
other thing.
it was very much this other thing.
Yeah.
You know how your people are now.
I know. I was like, wait, what happened? But yeah, I so appreciated that, and that to me was just an example of the kind of human being you are, and and for you to be the partner of my beloved cousin Nashime, who is
Mm.
strong, native Philadelphian,
Yes.
West Philly, that says a lot about who you are too,
Mm.
because she is an amazing human being, and the two of you together make such a powerful force to navigate this world at this time. So I'm grateful for that too.
God bless you. Thank you. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you so much
Thank
for your
you.
time. All right.
20 minutes. Yeah,
20
I
Yep,
hear
I
you.
minutes.
know. It's your
So
people.
look here, Solomon, I'm just saying, next time the sister says 20 minutes,
Yeah,
you know something.
I already know.
He knows. All right.
God
Thank you
bless
Take
y'all.
guys.
care.
All right.
God
All
Take
bless
right.
care.
y'all. Take
Bye
care.
bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye now. Oh, one last thing. One last
Yeah.
thing. When will this air? Make sure Chris knows when this airs, Sarah, and get
Yeah.
him a copy. Would you please? Because I know
Absolutely.
you have to
Absolutely.
edit it, etc. Just
Yeah.
make sure Chris gets a copy, okay? Because he'll get me the copy.
Yep.
Okay. God bless
Absolutely.
y'all. Take
All
care.
right.
God
Bye
bless.
bye.
Bye now.
Take care.
Bye now.